Hi, everybody. Welcome to Superhero IRL's Avenging Loneliness, Resilience in the Age of COVID-19. For the first time in human history, everybody on Earth is experiencing the same situation. So we're here to discuss emotions, solutions, and ways that we can reach out and make life better for ourselves and each other. My name's Chase Masterson, and I founded Pop Culture Hero Coalition and Superhero IRL in 2013 with Carrie Goldman. We use a combination of psychology and stories we love to access our own real-life superpowers, and we want you to do the same. And we've got a fantastic group of superhero panelists for you today, starting with Vanee Mataslia. Vanee's profession is one of the most essential in society. She's a middle school teacher. She's also a journalist for sites such as blackgirlnerds.com, as well as West Coast coordinator for Women in Comics International. Brandon Mataslia has taught on the K-12 level as well as on the university level, and he currently contributes his services to Women in Comics International as a panel moderator and a content coordinator. Welcome, Brandon and Vanee Mataslia.
Yay!
Hello.
Anne Wheaton is the author of the acclaimed children's book Piggy Pug, which powerfully addresses issues such as abandonment and poverty, as well as hope and found family. Anne is the award-winning ambassador for National Women's Health Week. Welcome, Anne Wheaton.
Thank you very much.
Yay. Welcome.
Yay.
Our next guest is a licensed clinical psychologist by day and a full-time geek, in her own words. As a Ukrainian-born refugee, Dr. Janina Scarlet survived radiation and persecution. She immigrated to the United States at the age of 12 with her family, and later, inspired by the X-Men, developed superhero therapy to help patients with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Among other work, she has written Therapy Quest, Harry Potter Therapy, Superwomen, Superhero Therapy, and a phenomenal mental health graphic novel called Dark Agents. Check out that WonderCon panel. It's fantastic. And this book, Dark Agents, is premiering very highly on Amazon. Such an honor to have you, Dr. Janina Scarlet.
Yay!
Best known for her role on Supernatural, Rachel Miner's career has captivated audiences of TV, film, and Broadway since the age of 9. Her versatile work has expanded to being the executive director of Random Acts, the charity founded by Misha Collins, inspiring people all over the world to do acts of kindness, both big and small. A mental health advocate and a huge hero of mine. Welcome, Rachel Miner.
Yay!
Rachel?
Really excited about this. He is a national service advocate and just wrapped 5 seasons of playing Ray Palmer the Atom on CW's Legends of Tomorrow, bringing levity and impeccable comedic skills to dramatic storylines. His work has also been seen in Zack and Miri, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and so much more. He first stole the entertainment world's heart in Superman Returns, and we are so excited to have Superman returning to this panel. Thanks so much for joining us again, Brandon Routh.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yay!
And are you ready? Joe Gatto is star of the wildly popular, successful Impractical Jokers, now in its 8th season, leading to sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden and the hilariously popular Impractical Jokers, the movie. Joe has been a supporter of the Coalition's work for years, with panels and signings and wearing his shirt in our Be Kind campaign, check it out, which has made our work possible in schools. Thank you so much. We are so happy to have you with us again, Joe Gatto.
Thank you for having me.
Yay! Okay, guys, so we are all experiencing isolation, which has caused a lot of people to experience depression, anxiety, and fear. Some of us are introverts who have not experienced the loss of social contact as deeply. Others are extroverts who have. A lot of people are risking their physical safety every single day by putting their lives on the line to fulfill their work as healthcare heroes, as food delivery service people, people who work in grocery stores. There are so many people who are experiencing a lot of stress right now, combined with loneliness and the lack of social support systems that we can usually rely on. So, Brandon, I'm going to start with you. You are so well loved for a character who, despite his superpowers, is no stranger to loneliness. Superman has had to isolate himself to go away from people he loves on a regular basis. I remember those beautiful words that Superman spoke to his son. You will be different. Sometimes you'll feel like an outcast, but you'll never be alone. You will make my strength your own. So tell me, how in that role or others or in your own life have you navigated issues of loneliness and connection when times are tough?
Well, it's a great question, and also some great words that I was, happy to be a part of that the Superman legacy and the continuation of these ideas. I think loneliness is something we all have to deal with throughout our lives. It's become more paramount now that we're all in isolation in this way. But I think first and foremost, being alone gives us a lot of time to think about ourselves and to have come to terms with who we are and what we are and why we're here, and all those things I think probably roll through our minds. Why is this all happening to all of us? Why is this happening to me? And when I start to think, why is this happening to me? After a while of doing that, I usually shift into, why is this happening to us? It's not just happening to me. So if I can go through the process of thinking about how it affects me, which is important, then I can start to see how it's not only affecting me, it's affecting everyone else. And for me, this whole experience has been a big part of this experience has been finding out what is the positive thing to gain from all this, if there is. How can this unite us in some way? Obviously, there's great trauma and loss happening for many families, and not to push that away, but also in the midst of that, how can we grow as a country, as a global human entity? Because we are all interconnected, and this is showing us more than anything else, maybe in our lifetimes, how connected we all are and how important we all are to each other. So that while we are lonely and we are alone in that way, we are also all connected. We are all being affected by this. So that's what helps me, is seeing that I am a part of this whole thing. And Superman is a part of helping humanity to grow. He can't do it all by himself. He has to teach people how to work together, how to be better people. That's his real superpower, I think.
That is really wonderful stuff. It really struck me when you first worked with us a couple of years ago that your groundedness and your humility, your just everyday guy sensibility about life
Iowa.
Is Iowa. And it's such a huge part of what makes you a wonderful actor. And it's also a huge part of what's even more important, which is being a wonderful human. And I want to hear more about your work in service as the panel goes on. I'll ask you more about that later. But thank you. It's such a key point that empathy is really so important right now. We could each be focusing on our own issues and our own struggles, but it's really in realizing that the connection that we have and seeing others' pain that puts ours in perspective and helps us to reach out to be strong together. Yeah, that's really good stuff. Well, Joe Gatto, again, thrilled to have you back. And you told me this morning that you have something to thank Brandon Routh for. So
I do.
Go for it.
I'm glad that we finally get together, Brandon. Thank you personally for my first Comic-Con. It's also the first time I met you, Chase. It was my first Comic-Con, and Impractical Jokers was in its second season. And the biggest party at Comic-Con is the entertainment weekly party at the top of the Hard Rock, right? So there's this hotel that has a rooftop party. That's the huge thing. So me and my co-star James Murray are walking around. You're like, you know what? Let's try to get into this party. So we walk up to the front door and we give our names, and of course they're not on the list. Like, sorry guys, no, you can't come in. So we walk around. But what we didn't know was the VIP access entrance was on the side of the building. So as we're walking by, a couple of fans recognized and start taking pictures with us. And one of the caterers was like, "Oh, Joe, Murr, you guys coming in?" And the security guard saw that, and we were like, "Yeah." So we go in. And so we get up to the first level. Now we're inside the party. And now there's a second check-in. And now I'm like, okay, our goose is cooked here, right? So as we're giving our names there, they don't have our names. You walk in with a bunch of friends. You were with a large group of people, and there was a little bit of a line. So you were with about 6 or 7 people. And the guy who was handling you to get you into the party was like, you know what? We don't have to wait on this line. Let's go through the hotel. I don't know if you remember this. And they walked you through a double door. So I grabbed him and I said, psst, come on. And we folded into your entourage. And we walked in, and 2 guys saw us do that and came in behind us. And as we're walking to get through the final door, you had said to the guy, the guy asked you, is everybody with you? And you're like, not the guys. And the 2 guys were behind us. I heard you say that. So when we got to the security guard, I'm like, yeah, these guys aren't with us. And we got in with you to the biggest party that year. And I had one of the greatest times. And I actually walked over and said hello to you. And you're very nice at that point.
That's
so
hilarious.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. Oh, anytime. Next time I'll do it consciously.
It's great. It's great. Yes, I have a good job hiding in your entourage. So I wanted to take this chance to thank you.
That's funny. I just did another a podcast thing a couple days ago, and somebody mentioned meeting me at the Entertainment Weekly party. That's obviously I've been to Comic-Con many times, I guess. So I was just meeting all these stories.
And to round that circle, I was part of that thing. We weren't doing it together, but you were talking about Travis, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because I did that after you.
Oh.
Anyway, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to the Superman theme, and I've got to ask you, Brandon Mataslia, to tell your story of this incredible thing that you did for a child who was in crisis, in trauma. You shared this once on a Coalition panel, and I think it's so appropriate and important that people hear this type of empathy and real-life superheroism. Go for it.
Oh, absolutely. So a few years ago, I was working in the San Bernardino School District. And for those of you who may not know, there was a tragedy involving a school shooting at an elementary school called North Park. And I volunteered to be part of the trauma team to respond there to help relieve teachers in the classroom who might have been dealing with that trauma and been able to teach and to help keep things going. And so I was routinely in and out of different classrooms, helping different grade levels, helping the children in different ways. And so I was there for about a year, but maybe my first 3 months into it, there was a student there who was having great difficulty with really being alone or going out to recess or being away from their sibling who was older than them. So they were dealing with a lot of fear because of what had happened. And even though they weren't directly involved, it was just the sort of feeling that was going around the campus. So everybody sort of had this mutual feeling of dread. And so I would see this child, and they were crying often, and they had been to different therapy meetings, and they had had interventions with their parents, and some of the teaching staff would let their older sibling sit in class with them for some class sessions. And it was getting really difficult. And so one day I got the brilliant idea of playing pretend because this child was young enough. And so I wore a Superman t-shirt under my regular work dress because, of course, you still have to show up wearing professional dress. So I would purposely loosen my tie. I, as you can see, wear glasses, and I would wear a fedora, this sort of old style Clark Kent look. And I came up to the student and I said, I heard that you're afraid. I said, but you don't have to be, because I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm actually Superman. And so I would, lower down my work shirt and they could see the S underneath. And I said, now this is just our secret, just between you and me, so that you realize that you're safe. And the reason why I chose Superman, because I could have chose anybody, is because he's bulletproof. And if you don't know, when Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel created the character, part of the creation of Superman and his powers was in response to their own real-life trauma, in which one of their fathers had been robbed and shot in a grocery store. And so they invented a character, of course, who could not be shot. And so I think people really connect with that, right? The idea of feeling invulnerable in situations where we feel vulnerable. And so because of that, I chose Superman, because he's invulnerable. And this is a site where people were dealing with the trauma of a shooting. And so what began to happen was that this student felt more confident going out on the playground. They'd ask me to come play with them during recess games. They'd ask me to come join their friends. I would sit with them at lunch. And then eventually what was just our secret became everybody's secret. And so he would go around the playground and say, "Psst, if you didn't know, he's Superman." And so I would go walking through the school halls, and before you know it, other students, regardless of their age, would say, "Hey, Superman, I need you to come do, this, or this. Can you please help me clear lunch trays? Can you come help me with my class assignment? Can you walk me over here?" And then something else happened where the teachers started all calling me Superman. And so before you know it, nobody was calling me Mr. Mataslia anymore. Everybody, even the school principal, was referring to me as Superman. And so that became my routine thing, where I had to wear, a different Superman shirt under my work clothes every day to sort of go with that.
I could vouch for that shirt thing.
Pretty great.
I love that.
That's pretty great stuff. And how beautiful that you did that for that little boy, and that superhero vibes spread throughout the whole school, and really made the point that everybody can be a superhero when we look inside our hearts and bring something from inside to the table to help somebody in need.
It's such a funny thing. My son has been having this thing. He's 7.5. And so for a while he was like, "Okay, Superman, yeah." He's still a bigger Spider-Man fan. In fact, he was just up here watching Spider-Man before we started this cartoon. But then he used to say, he's like, "Oh, but I," and he's been to see us shoot Legends of Tomorrow and all kinds of things. So he knows the film and television, but he still was holding out for a long time on me being Superman. And the powers. "Well, I know you can't do this, but you can do this. You can fly." And he was convinced forever that I could fly because I could jump on the bed, like from the floor to the bed, like dive. So for him, I was Superman for a while, in that I could fly like that. And it's a funny thing because I don't want to crush my kid's belief that I'm not really Superman, but also I don't want him to do something
My entire childhood
because he
was a
thinks
lie.
I'm Superman.
Yeah.
Something dangerous.
Right.
Anyway.
He's like, my dad will get me out of this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he'll be able to ease into it and, appreciate it for now. I think that's the wonderful thing about a child's imagination, is that maybe not the literal belief that, oh, you really, really have these powers, but just the idea that you're this person who can be there to keep them safe and can do amazing things.
Yeah.
I mean, my son's 2, and he hands me everything to fix. He'll just say, "Daddy, fix." And I'm like, "I don't know how to fix this," but he believes I can. And so that's the important part, making them feel safe. So even if the longest flight you have is just from the floor to the bed, that's already going to be enough for them.
I'm sure having little kids, it's really hard to stay home and be like the full-time caregiver. And if you're able to also work from home, that's really difficult too. My kids are older and out of the house, but do you guys all have, because I have had a couple of moments of panic that I just started crying and like try not to freak out, and my husband was the one that had to remind me, like, it's okay, like, we're safe, we're healthy, we're gonna be all right. And I think that my biggest anxiety is just not seeing my friends, like not even being able to hug my friends. And my son does not live here, but he lives like 1.5 miles away, and he's married, but he was working in a grocery store. And so I felt like I just had this panic of, oh my God, he shouldn't be out there. And my husband was trying to look at it as like, oh, he's, this is a really cool thing that he's helping other people, which is good and noble. But at the same time, this is why these workers that are working in the grocery store or restaurants or delivery services, whatever, like, this is why their pay should be higher than what it is, because at the end of the day, like, look how much we all need that, and to have them paid the least amount. But I would have these moments of panic also, not just for my son, but for my friends that I can't see and other family that I can't help. And that panic of feeling helpless, even though we are helping by staying in, because it's preventing us from, either if we're an asymptomatic carrier, from getting other people sick, or getting sick ourselves and bringing it into our house and whatever. And I'm just wondering, like, has everyone else experienced that like level of panic and uncertainty? And I think, I don't know, like, I'm not a controlling person, but to feel that out of control is really hard.
And I have to tell you, and first of all, this is universal, right? Most people are really struggling with that same thing right now. And actually people who are going into work tend to feel, not, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but in my observation and working with patients, both who are going into work and both who are working from home, people who are going into work seem to be on some levels, although they're stressed, but emotionally they're feeling better because they're doing something.
Oh,
and,
yeah, that's true.
So I think most people tend to feel better when they do something, and staying home, although that's the best thing that we can do unless we're working in hospitals or in a grocery store, that is the best thing we can do, but it feels too passive. It feels like we're not doing enough. And so what I've been recommending for a lot of my patients is actually to do something active, but from home. So for example, to check in on loved ones, like to actually set up these kind of Zoom calls to check in on other people, because that is active, that is taking a step to help the community. If they're able to create masks, let them to do that, you know, as a way to volunteer, to perhaps send in groceries to other people. So for example, I set up an Instacart account and I've been having groceries delivered to different people that I know are in need. So like, you know, I put in a few different addresses there, and then I'll have groceries delivered to, like, let's say our neighbors or certain people with disabilities. And so when humans are in trauma, the best way that we can cope with that trauma is actually to take action. If you remember the disaster in Sri Lanka, there were so many people that that were affected, you know, that either died or had family members that either died or, you know, lost their homes. The people that actually were least likely to get PTSD were people that banded together, that were helping each other look for relatives, that were rebuilding homes and villages. And so it's hard to, it's, you know, the hardest thing that we can actually do is to stay home and do nothing, but that's exactly what we're being asked to do.
Yes.
And that's why if we're able to take action from home, we're creating a dual benefit. Like by staying home, we're helping to lessen the spread of the virus, we're saving lives. And by taking some kind of action, like creating these Zoom calls to help other people, for example, to send groceries, to send masks, we are helping. And so, you know, a lot of it is just kind of finding one action that we can do with our experience. So, Anne, I know, for example, you're an animal advocate, right? And that, you know, whether you focus on that or something else, I think that it would probably be really helpful if you ever wanted to consider that, right? Just like taking action from within your area of expertise.
Yeah.
And all of you have so much to offer.
And I know Janina and I have actually been in contact a lot through this period of time, but one of the things that I did was I threw myself 100% into working on the charity work, because I am the executive director of this charity. We tried to revamp every program so we could be as helpful as possible to people at this time. And then also, but make it so that other people could connect and help, because I know from a mental health point of view how important that is. So one of the aspects of one of the programs we're doing is people can nominate groups doing good work in their area, and we fund those so that it's something where they're not having to give money, because a lot of us are struggling financially during this time too, but just so that we can feel we're doing something good for people that are good. And I think that's where a lot of us have also got really involved in helping frontline workers, anything we can do. But it is so important, whatever we're going through, to feel like we can, even if it's a small thing,
productive.
like
for sure.
Yeah.
I did, my husband and I at different times have donated to our local food bank, because I know that that's such a huge issue. And I think that you know, I think you were talking about this earlier, Brandon, about like figuring out what's important and what we can do. And I think with all of this, like I had to stop watching or reading too much stuff, too much news on a global level, because it felt so overwhelming. I just felt like I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But if so the only thing I do is I watch the daily live briefings from our governor and our local mayor, just to know what's going on in my area. And then I have donated to my local food bank and my local animal shelter.
I really wanted to talk to you because it was a really interesting thing when Chase was saying we're all sharing in this thing together. It is true, and there's this strange aspect of humanity in that each of us has, like every single human has felt alone, but at the same time, we're completely together in that aloneness because it's one of the most universally shared emotions.
Yep.
But on the other hand, it's really important, I think, for all of us to be aware of where our privilege is, whatever that is, because we're not all experiencing the same thing, and everyone is experiencing these traumas. And I think it's a tricky balance because it is that you have to be compassionate and understanding with yourself that it is a trauma. Talking to a friend who runs a charity in Nepal, and people are starving and looting, and like it's horrific, and there's no we think we don't have hospital capacity. In a lot of the third world countries, there's like 3 ventilators for the whole country. Like it's not the same situation. So and I think, even in our own country, people experiencing poverty, it's so extreme what a lot are going through. And I know for me, I lost my father 2 weeks ago, and I had my mother with him in the hospital, and I was so stressed about them. So, but on the other hand, I'm very aware that I am privileged too. So it's a tricky balance of finding that self-compassion and understanding for each other, and feeling that connection of like, oh my gosh, everyone is experiencing some kind of trauma right now. You're experiencing loss, you're experiencing fear for your loved ones, you're experiencing fear for your own health. But let's be mindful of the fact that there are others experiencing high trauma around the corner.
Did any of you
I think the big part of it I think the big part of it is to realize and to take the pressure off. There's no right way to do this. And everybody is like, there's the only way to do it is what you're doing. So you got to get rid of all that pressure. You got to get rid of what people are expecting of you, what people are thinking, and you have to look at it from a personal start from yourself and be like, okay, what can I do to survive this? Because that's all we're basically doing right now, right? We're surviving this to come out on the other side stronger. So
and I think that thing of being able to connect and help is so important.
100%. And I think that's why the internet is unbelievable. Like all these social networking tools that everybody's always made fun of and be like, oh my God, you're always on Twitter, you're always on. It's actually an outlet and connecting us all right now, which is so insane. If you think about how many people made fun of TikTok versus how many people are surviving because of TikTok, myself included, it's just hysterical that like you're able just to feel this connection. There's a real sense of community without community. So I think for an outlet from what you were saying earlier, and I think a real outlet is to just reach out to your fans or friends or anyone online. I've gotten through so many great conversations just online, just responding to people, because a lot of people, just a little response from somebody they respect in the industry, or, never mind being able to sit on the panel with them, right, Brandon? But just like a little bit of that of somebody you look up to and is one of your people, like just even a like of a picture or something that could totally change somebody's outlook for a real significant way. So I think that's a strong tool that's at all of our disposals.
So it's also one of the trickiest things I think about being human is you cannot categorize and order trauma or grief or pain that someone is experiencing. So it's one of the things. So I have MS, and sometimes if people hear that, they have trouble talking about their own issues that they have going on in their life, because they're like, I know it's not in comparison to what you're going through. I don't like that, actually. I'm always trying to say, no, we're all at capacity. We're all doing our absolute best, and deal with whatever trials you have. So I don't think it is healthy to compare, to say, mine is worse than yours, and therefore
it minimizes everyone's
you can't own
100%. Yeah, other people have it worse is like a very damaging mindset, because it takes away from what you're going through.
But on the other hand, I think it's really important that we all use that as a grounding point to say, we're part of an entire world. And there are so many people, regardless of not just now, there are always so many people going through things. And we can contextualize in the course of history and so forth, where does this fit? And I think I think both things can be true. I think you can hold on to both mentally. And I think it's one of the most important things we can do as humans is to have that perspective. But on the other hand, allow ourselves, to be upset. I know I tend to physicalize. It's probably one of the reasons I got sick. I tend to physicalize pain and trauma because I don't feel I have the right to express it, because I always do that thing with myself of, but in comparison, there's someone else who's starving, and there's someone else who's going through a war. But it's also important that we be able to cry and say, this sucks and it hurts and I feel scared. And if we don't do that, we can physicalize it. So
I want to piggyback off of that and say that I think it's also important for everybody to realize that even though the pandemic right now is the biggest thing and it's the thing that we're all sharing, that hasn't put an end to the other problems people are dealing with in their lives. There are lots of other issues that, continue on, then people are having to deal with multiple things. And I think that can help us all be more mindful and kind. So for instance, Vanee's grandmother, who lives with us and we take care of her, she's recovering from cancer, right? She just had cancer for the second time. She just had to have surgery to have that removed. And so that's been an added level of stress for us to make sure that we're not bringing anything into the house that could risk her getting COVID-19. And so, and even without COVID-19, it's just the idea of trying to take care of her to make sure that her recovery goes smoothly and that we're minimizing her getting any kind of opportunistic illnesses. And the same is true for everybody else, right? Just as Anne brought up, with having to now take care of so many other people in their family. It's not just the people in their immediate household, but caring for the people who are now going through their circumstances. People are becoming unemployed. At I believe the highest rate since 1938, I believe I saw on the news the other day. And so all of those things are going on at the same time. And so, in terms of us, people minimizing how people are feeling, what they're going through, we should all be mindful that people are going through more than just the pandemic. That's why I find it so disingenuous when people say, oh, your grandparents were called to go fight Nazis, you're just called to sit on the couch. And it's not that easy. Sitting on the couch.
The mental toll that all these things take, it's such an interesting thing to watch on social media. All my friends who are parents who are losing their minds because they haven't had a second where there isn't noise and people and whatever. And you realize, as a human being, we need alone time.
Yeah.
We need some peace.
How appreciative the parents are for what teachers actually do.
Absolutely.
Because the ones that are trying to do the distance learning thing and also, make dinner and whatever.
And on the other hand, those of us that are on our own, that are alone and having to navigate that, and the depth of loneliness you can experience, even I'm an introvert. I thought I loved being alone.
But then when you have to, you're like, wait, I take it back.
Yeah, when you're not connecting to people, it's a big deal. So all I'm saying is that all these traumas are really real, and it's just a matter of being mindful of the fact that that other people are going through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think the big thing too is that everybody is experiencing a new world. It's a new normal. It's a new world. No one has ever done that. I used to tour on the road and stuff, and I'd be away from home anywhere from 90 to 110 nights during the year. My daughter, 2 weeks before this whole thing started, thanked me for visiting her because I've never seen her. So my heart was broken. when she said
Thank
that.
you for
And then this just
visiting,
happened, and now it's
God.
like, now she can't get enough of it. And I'm like, could Daddy have a second?
Yeah, really. Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
I want to
Hey.
key on what you said about parents and stressing out doing the at-home digital learning. And I know that that's a cause of a lot of stress for a lot of people. I've seen the posts online, and I know a lot of us teachers are like, now you know how it feels, and we laugh, and it's kind of cute and funny. But the reality is, you're not educators. And for parents who are out there, we're not babysitters. What we do when we go to work with your children, we're educated professionals. And what I do for a living is not something that I expect you to be able to sit in front of a computer and do. I work with 36 teenagers every hour for 6 hours a day, and I get them to be better people, better readers, better learners, better thinkers. That is a very, very specific skill set. So for all the parents out there that are stressing out and I can't do this, we know you can't do this. It took years for us to be good at this. This is not babysitting.
Also,
So
it is a superpower.
For sure.
It's the best I've got, so I'm hoping so. But there's so many educators. We just want parents to know. We want you guys to hear. Just step back, breathe, relax. We are giving you guys all these packets and things like that because we have legal obligations through the states and things like that. Not because we know it's what's best for kids. What's best for kids is to be in lower stress environments. We don't want you killing yourselves over these packets. We know that distance learning is a brand new skill. Most teachers have never had to do anything like this until 2 weeks ago. Everybody's figuring it out. Now, we are all following legal obligations to throw all this stuff at families and kids. But all educators, those of us who have been doing this for a while, we know this isn't going to work. You're not professional educators, mom and dad. You don't have to be. Please be the best mom and dad you can be. If you give your kid outside time, reading time, some time to process information in some way every day, you are doing far better for them than sitting there in front of a computer screen making them do all those packets. And hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this, you don't actually have to do it at all. There's absolutely nothing that's going to, if your kid misses 8 weeks of school, the world is not going to come to an end, I guarantee you. So just as looking at the mental health piece, you are not going to be able to be there for your kid if you are falling apart, stressing over that Common Core math. Math teachers don't even.
And you're not going to be a good teacher either.
Just
I'm having this challenge.
A favor and do your kids a favor and breathe through it and step back and don't feel so obligated. I do not expect that I could get in front of a screen and do what most of you do for a living. That's a profession. Those are skill sets. I can't do that.
Brandon, you were saying you're struggling with that as a father at this point. Are you?
Well, yeah. Courtney and I are we actually, thankfully, we have just ordered homeschool material 2 weeks before this all happened. Not because of this, but because it was going to be our plan for a little while. And so we got the materials 2 days before we had the self-quarantine in California. And we've been working on this, and, we both want him to do as best he can in school and learn the concepts and all those things. But we realized that in teaching it, we put pressure on ourselves to help him learn. But also what I found in this whole process is this is an opportunity for all of us, especially in family groups, if you have somebody with you, to learn to be better people to each other, and to learn how to be more compassionate for our children, for our loved ones, and just take the pressure off the daily normal socialized behaviors that we have created. We have this social structure, and we're a developed society in America. We have this technology, which is awesome. This is not a pitch to throw that away and become Luddites and go back to using sticks and rocks only.
Coming home when the street lights come on.
Yeah, but it's to go, what is really important here? Is it important that my kid knows this concept, or that I have established a good, strong bond with him and communication with him, that we can touch on this and we'll come back to it later? Like I'm saying this because I find I put this pressure on myself to succeed or to do this thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And then sometimes when I'm really have better awareness, I'm able to step out and go, you know what, is this really important? Or is this like the societal pressure that I put on myself to do this thing that ultimately it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. If I am happy, if I can find joy in my life, share it to others, and I'm safe and can bring, hopefully bring that to other people in my life. Those are the things that are more important to me.
I'm so happy to hear you saying those points, because honestly, that's my biggest hope for the world right now. I know after getting sick, that was one of the gifts of getting sick, is to reprioritize. And there was a lot that I realized, oh, that's not important to me at all. And I think we do have to be mindful of what we are giving to people, not just in the facade that we put on and this, the metrics that we've been told we need to reach to win the game or be successful or whatever it is, but also what does a person feel like when they're in the room with you? What does your son feel like after he's had that time with you? These are the things that I think are really important. I actually love that a lot of us are more comfortable doing say these Zoom panels and things, and not worrying about trying to make it look like we live in lavish houses or our hair is perfect, exactly, or whatever. I actually hope that for the world, that we stop trying to hit those marks of supposed success or whatever, and start defining for ourselves what it means. And if that you define for yourself that is something that makes you feel wonderful and makes the world more beautiful or whatever, great. But I just want us to all take that breath to define for ourselves what we want this world to look like. And that's my hope for the world getting through this.
Parents are not expected to be teachers. And that is so true and so crucial at this time. It's so important that we give each other a break in our support and knowing that we're all doing our best. And I think that is a concept that can be expanded into every segment of society. We don't have the pressure on us to be perhaps the most important job on earth right now, which is healthcare and food delivery. We aren't expected to be those things. And therefore, our respect for those professions that we may not give much thought to on any regular basis is huge right now. And I hope that as society continues to go through this, that we can have that extra, and really shouldn't be extra, but incredible and high esteem for teachers, for food delivery, for custodians, for everyone doing their part to make this world work. And oftentimes it's the jobs which are the hardest and the least paid, which get the least focus. And it's us as actors, or it's other people in the spotlight that get the most acclaim. And we need everyone. And there is no such thing as, well, I just do this or I just do that. I hope that the world can really wake up to how crucial every single person's job is and life is, and that no life is more important than any other life. And I hope that that's a lesson that we can learn during this time, and that as we combine our energies and passions for creating the world to work in the most healthy, in the healthiest ways possible, in the most joyous ways possible, that we can, and I'm sure that you touched on this, but that we can really reach out and envelop every element of society and every person in every country, because we all just want the same thing, which is to live healthily, to have our families live healthily, and to love and be loved, and to have what we need, food and shelter and medical care.
A living wage.
Vaccines.
And a living wage.
Living wage, yeah.
But also my argument for many years, and why I've actually gone back and forth with whether to continue acting, is I love acting because what it should be about, to me, is about people's stories and telling other people's stories and communicating to other people what their stories are. But it's nothing to do with us. So the whole ego aspect of it has always been confusing to me. I think we have the opportunity to kind of start reordering society. There's no way that we're going to go back to the old normal. So I would really love if one of our jobs as artists just becomes to highlight the fact that we need to care for other people and their stories more. And maybe, you know, we can help highlight teachers and all these people and healthcare professionals and all these things that I feel like that was actually our job to begin with.
Yeah.
It wasn't to, you know, wear the fanciest dress or whatever other things that like became part of the equation.
Storytelling
I think
is an important part of culture and growing society, and telling the stories and the trials and tribulations of those that have come before us, you know, passing down all kinds of things.
And I think the world and the events of this are going to do that, are going to be the main thing. We're just all going to follow suit. Like there's no way that, you know, the human race is changed at its core. It just has. But this, you know, family values and family has come to the forefront of this. You're stuck with your family. Like that's the biggest takeaway. You know, the most important school subject for everybody that's teaching stay at home is family value right now. It's people are getting to know their kids on a level and be with their kids and spend a time that has never happened ever in the world, where you're actually the only thing that they have to teach them right now. Yeah.
The other side of that is I know that there are people who don't have a healthy family situation at home and they have to be there, and to understand how important it is to have compassion and empathy for people who are struggling like that. And this kind of thing really magnifies how important it is to have nonprofit organizations who address things like that, abuse, whether it's physical, emotional abuse, substance abuse, whatever. I know that a lot of people have been talking about, like, you know, people joke about, what time is it? It's happy hour, no matter what time it is during the day. But there are also a lot of people that's upsetting to them because they struggle with alcohol, or people that are just like posting junk food that they're eating, and other people that struggle with an eating disorder. And I feel like if anything with all of this is teaching us how to be more compassionate and understanding for what other people are going through, and how things that we can do to help that, because we're not all in those experiences, as we talked about earlier. Like, we don't know what other people are going through unless they say it. And especially on social media, that's an opt-in thing. Like, you don't have to share your life story on there. So just assume that you're going to be compassionate and empathetic to everyone, because you don't know their story.
So toward that end, thank you. That was wonderful. And you guys are all the best. I'm so proud to have you. Toward that end, the Coalition has asked Dr. Janina Scarlet to create lesson plans that we can give to parents, teens, and children to get through this time and have healthy attitudes, and to really bolster their mental health. The Coalition's primary work is in schools. Our Heroic Journey curriculum is a 32 lesson plan program that teaches kids through the heroic journey how to navigate their struggles and turn them into strengths. And so we're super excited, Janina, to have you adapting these programs for kids and parents and at home. And this will be available free of charge through our website. We'll have a link for you, hopefully, on this video. Janina, tell us about the process of that and the important things that we can leave children and parents, that we can give to children and parents during this time.
I'm so glad that you asked that. And Vanee, I love what you said, that parents are not expected to be teachers, because it's so true, right? As academics, you guys go through years and years and years of experience to be able to educate children. And the same thing applies for mental health professionals, in terms of people are not expected to be their own mental health professionals. Even mental health professionals are not expected to be our own mental health professionals. And the idea is that a lot of people are going through a hard time, understandably, but unfortunately what happens too is that they start shaming themselves for struggling. So whether they're parents or high school students or other individuals, they might engage in the kind of social comparison some of us mentioned earlier, as in, well, my pain is not as bad as this other person's pain. Why am I going through a hard time? I shouldn't be feeling this grief and anxiety. And in fact, Rachel and I have actually talked about this on our podcast. We talked about how there's universal grief going on right now, even for folks who don't know anyone who died from COVID-19. There's universal grief going on. There's an understandable amount of trauma going on. And so what that means is that allowing space for our emotions, it means reaching out to other people, and also perhaps reaching out to a mental health professional. Most mental health professionals in the United States now, myself included, are doing telehealth, which means you don't have to leave your home to receive mental health support. You can do it all through video or telephone. And actually you can learn a lot of really helpful mental health skills. For folks who are in the kind of abusive or unstable environments, such as the ones we've just brought up, there's still a lot of ways that we can support ourselves, whether it's finding a quiet zone, which might be a bathroom sometimes, or a car if we have one. Not everyone has one. Or maybe stepping outside and going for a walk. And yes, that might mean wearing our mask and whatever that means, but finding a space that is just for ourselves, where we can take a moment and breathe and recollect and find a moment of safety can be everything. Reaching out to friends or to individuals who are in a similar situation can actually allow our battery to recharge, can allow us to know that we're not alone. And chances are, if you're going through something, if you feel anything at all, there's a million other people who feel the exact same thing as you. If you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed and want to cry or want to yell, or you're feeling impatient, people around you are probably feeling the same thing. So talking about what you're going through, or posting about it, or sharing it can actually help other people, can let people know that they're not alone, and you are worth receiving the help that you need in this moment. So in the lesson plans that Chase just talked about, we listed a number of helpful resources. So for example, in the United States, if you're going through a mental health crisis, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're suicidal, but maybe you need to talk to somebody right there and then. You can text 741-741. It's a crisis text line. It's 24/7. It's free. It's confidential. You can text at any time. There are mental health professionals that will help you at any time of the day. And they also have referrals for finding a mental health professional that can serve you in your area. Psychologytoday.com is a wonderful website that can help you to find a psychologist in your area that will work with you. Like I said, most therapists nowadays are working through telehealth, so you don't have to leave your home to see somebody. And if you're going through any kind of abuse or trauma, RAIN.org is a wonderful organization that helps individuals who had experienced abuse or sexual assault to find resources and a safe place to go to.
Yeah, I actually
So
started,
powerful, Janina. Thank you very much.
I just started working with RAIN. I'm going to be doing stuff with them all year long. I did a little bit last year, and I just feel like they are so amazing and so helpful. And when all of the Kavanaugh hearings came up, they had the highest volume of calls in their 10-year history. Or no, I think it's not 10 years. They've been around for 25, I think it is. And it's the highest they've ever had. And it is a weird thing, because they asked me about like creating a donation page and whatever. And I was just like, I feel like I cannot ask anyone to give money right now. And that is tough. But fortunately, there are grants that that nonprofits can apply for, so they can still provide some service. But it is scary to see the domino effect of everything shutting down, how it's affecting everything.
It's a tricky thing. I know, in terms of what I've tried to do with Random Acts as much as possible, is one, make it possible and encourage people to make even small donations, because it actually can make them feel better. That it's even if it was $1, to feel like you could do something towards something that can help another person, but also build in with every program that we're doing. We've built in ways that people can contribute that are not financial.
Good.
Definitely check that out.
And we, I have this whole organization is volunteer only for Random Acts, including myself. But so I gave everyone the opportunity to route off and to take leave, because I know everyone of the staff is going through such a hard time. And the amazing thing is no one chose to do that. I think we're all working harder, if anything else, because
that's great.
It is one of the touchstones is that in a time like this, we do need to feel like we can contribute to making society better. And that is actually one of the healthiest things.
Our serotonin levels and endorphins kick into gear when we reach out and do something for someone else in need. Our empathy helps breed our resilience.
Yeah. And we talk about raising kids in these environments. Our kids are around us, so our mental health is not only important to us, it is important to them. And the next generation, how they're going to walk away from this experience depends on us.
Incredibly important.
And what we're teaching them. So they might walk away from this. I have a hope that a lot of them will be more empathetic and understanding, but they also need to see us being able to cope with it in a healthy way and not pass along our trauma and stress to them. So.
Absolutely. We're going to have to start wrapping up now. I would love to hear just some final words from each of you on how you think the world can best handle this, just your advice to people who are out there struggling, who may feel stuck at home with people that don't understand them, or are in financial turmoil because of this. Just some words of hope. Brandon, I'd love for you to also, in addition to any closing words, chime in about the National Service Organization work that you've done. And I just want to say it's my hope that when there is a solution to COVID-19, when there's a vaccine, and when it's safe again, that the world, having learned to think and feel collectively, knowing that we are all in the same situation, can really turn our attention to other global issues, such as global poverty, climate change, terrorism, empathy, all of the things that we need to really take a serious look at in terms of women's issues, LGBTQ issues, racism. These are also issues that we can tackle, and I hope that our collective energy that we learn during this time can be put into gear for those issues. So one at a time, I'd love for you to just say a few words. Whoever wants to go first or next, just chime in with some final thoughts on getting through this time.
For anyone out there who's struggling and feeling alone, sometimes we feel more alone when we're around other people who don't understand us. And chances are, if you feel alone, then there are millions of other people that are also feeling alone in the exact same way as you, by feeling like they don't belong somehow, like they don't fit in somehow. And actually, it's in that aloneness that I think we're all united. I think most of us here know what that's like, to feel like we don't quite fit in, to feel like we're not quite accepted. And the truth is, the part about you that maybe has been the reason that you might have been rejected or alienated or shamed is probably the most lovable and most unique, most special, most wonderful part about you. That's your superpower. And so I'm hoping that you can turn it into your creativity and either draw it or write about it or put it out there, because chances are there's millions of other people that can relate to exactly what you're talking about and would love to get to know you, because you'll be sharing not only your story but their story. So I hope that you speak your truth, and I hope you know that the very thing that makes you unique makes you wonderful and makes you lovable.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Janina. Rachel, do you want to chime in next?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've spoken to so much of what's important. I really do hope as a human race, as, you know, a collective, we start finding some really positive lessons to take out of this, and that we do give the next generation the best chance that they have to create a better world. But I think part of that is going to be finding that difference between going, I'm not okay. And honestly, like, I didn't want to come into this saying, I've got this all figured out. I'm figuring it out. I think that's okay. I think it's okay for all of us to be in that state. But at the same time, to find those things that let us breathe and give us joy and give us peace. A lot of times I think that does come from reaching out and being able to help each other. There's a very natural thing about connecting in that way. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Anne?
Well, I think for me, the thing that has been really helpful is getting out and going for a walk. We have sunshine today for the first time in like 5 days. It's been raining like crazy. And I will be going for a walk when I'm done with this. But that getting out and, you know, it's a weird thing. Like some people are doing, you know, posting like workout challenges and whatever, which I feel can make others who are struggling, that I feel like that in a way would make people feel bad. Like, oh, I'm not doing all these push-ups and all these crazy workouts from home and whatever. And I just try real hard not to compare myself to anyone else because my experience is my own. So there's been a couple of times where I've gone out and I've gone on a little jog, and then I've like walked several miles, and then there are days where I sit on the couch and binge watch shows because like that's what I can handle. But the one thing I do every time I'm out, I take my phone and I take pictures of flowers, because there is something about being in and seeing that all, you know, I know that the entire country is not experiencing springtime right now, but we are, and to see that there is still beauty and growth and things happening outside that that is just, you know, it's happening on its own, and we can go in and appreciate it. And I have also taken up painting, and so I am going out and taking pictures and then painting these things. But I do see that some people are like, oh, I feel like I should be super productive, because I have seen people say, oh, you said you were going to learn that instrument or learn that foreign language, but you just didn't have time. So if you're not doing it now, like, who are you fooling? And it's just like, oh my God, it's not that. Like, I have a ukulele I've had for 4 months and I haven't started playing it yet. But you just do what you can. And I feel like it's really important to not get stuck in a panic loop, to do those little breathing exercises that keep you in the moment and keep you from thinking about all the what ifs and whatever, and just do what you can do to get through. Because when you're healthy and you're taking care of yourself, then you are able to help others. And I think that that's really important. It's not, it may sound a little selfish to be like helping yourself, but I'm not going to be useful to anybody else if I'm just like a ball crying in the corner. Like, I gotta do some things at my own pace. And I think that we're all just doing the best we can in a weird new situation. So
that's good stuff. Thank you, Anne. Brandon? Brandon Mataslia?
My advice to everybody is to lean into online community. Now is an excellent time to form them. So obviously, right, this would be WonderCon this week, but it's not. Still go and engage with all of your friends that you meet at cons. Talk about the things that you would ordinarily be talking about, because that part of life can still continue even if remotely. And then I would also like to recommend, if anybody's interested, GLAD, their Twitter page actually has a Friday night chat where everybody comes to talk about their weekly successes, no matter how big or how small. And that's a good way to have some catharsis about things that you feel positive about, to get encouragement from others. To feel positive about those things, or if you're having a hard time, to get encouragement. The emphasis is on giving self-care tips. So if you're at your wit's end and don't know what to do, come join the rest of us on Friday nights. I believe it's 5 to 6 p.m. or 6 to 7, one of those Friday nights Pacific time. and you can hopefully get some good advice on things that help you feel better and deal with these stressful times.
That's wonderful
great.
stuff. Thank you. Vanee?
If I want to say anything, it's simply to pay attention to what's going on right now and commit it to memory. Don't let this time pass and then let life go back to normal.
Yeah.
Look at the people around you. Look for the people who are helping. Look for the people who are doing whatever they can for society. And when it's time for you to speak up and you have a vote, vote on their behalf. Vote on behalf of the people who are on the front lines for you right now. Vote on behalf of the people who are delivering your food right now. I want us to remember everything that we're going through right now, and I want us to vote with these memories. Vote about when you're thinking about what education needs to be able to take care of your children in crisis. Vote with healthcare workers in mind. Look at the people who are serving you and how well they're serving you, and if they're serving you at all, and remember that when you go to the polls. Remember how well they did or did not serve you. And when it's your time to speak up, we may not all have a platform. Some of us have the benefit of having a great Twitter following and all that stuff, but all of us have the platform of being able to show up at the polls and put in your vote. So do not forget what's happening. Do not let the world go back to normal and we get comfortable again and forget everything that we went through as society. This is not our first world tragedy. We have had so many tragedies. We have endured over and over and over again throughout the history of mankind, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And then we are always succumb to going back to normal, going back to being complacent, and then the same people consistently become victimized again. Maybe it's a different people group, a different amount of people, but there's always somebody who gets victimized in the end. If we hold on to this, right now we're all a community, but we were all a community in World War II. We were all a community after 9/11. This is not our first go around. This is not even our first go around in our lifetime. We have to hold on to it. We have to vote with it, not just voting for our own personal interests, voting for what's best for society, what's best for all of us, because if we can all really hold on to this sense of empathy, sense of caring for each other, sense of all of us being a part of something together, we can change this cycle. We are more powerful than the system. There are just simply more of us. And if we come together and if we push through, we have the power to do that. If there's any superpower, that's it. And we need to go forth, use our vote. We're a part of a democracy, and we need to remember that. That's the advice that I would
I'm going to stand up and clap for you, girl.
Amen. That's our Vanee.
Yes.
That is
I'm a
why
teacher. I do this for a
so
living.
grateful when you said you could do this panel. And that I didn't mention before, but Vanee and Brandon Mataslia are the curriculum editors for Pop Culture Hero Coalition's work in schools. And we are just incredibly grateful for your voices and using those voices in our work in schools and now in homes.
It was beautiful. The only thing I want to add is we vote with our pocketbooks too. So let's be mindful going forward of where we're putting our money as well as our political voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to hear from Joe and Brandon. What are your parting words?
Either of you chime in.
Brandon, just like the party, I'll let you go first.
With that guy.
So Chase was mentioning national service, and I think this is an opportunity for us to look at that or consider that. A few years back, I started working with an organization called Serve America, basically helping promote the idea of national service. So we have the military service, and we have a Peace Corps program, and we have something called the AmeriCorps program, which is all about national service, started by George Bush. And then expanded by President Clinton and even by President Obama, but there's never been the funding to really seed that to its fullest capacity. And this is an organization, the National Corporation for I forget the NCCC anyway is the government's name for it, which funds the AmeriCorps program. And under the AmeriCorps umbrella are all these organizations that it helps fund. Teach for America, Youth Build, City Year, Habitat for Humanity, all of these amazing organizations that are all across the country. The government gives money for mostly young people coming out of high school and then doing a transition between high school to college to go and give service to our country. And they're making below the poverty level. Last I knew, it was something like $12,000 or $13,000 a year is all they're making to do this, to go and work for a couple years in service to our country, providing all kinds of amazing work. And so I know that Mayor Garcetti here in Los Angeles was talking about something called hoping to get a CareCorps. And I feel like there are organizations probably within the AmeriCorps program that could do this, but add that to the AmeriCorps program, because the AmeriCorps program has never been fully funded. If we can get enough people speaking about this national service, understanding that I don't want to go necessarily and go fight for my country because maybe I don't feel like, whatever your situation is with that. But if we made this a push for giving back to our communities, for young people to be able to do these, have these opportunities to give of themselves into the community, it would help in all these situations and have us have a better understanding of a sense of community, which is really important. So there's that. And the last thing I would say just is for people to give yourself a break, take the pressure off. This is for me, because I tend to realize I have more anxiety, or I put this pressure on myself to do these things every day. And now I'm realizing I don't have to. Don't really have to do those things. I have to feed myself, to be with my family and be good for my family, and check these small boxes. So start simple, and let's learn, and then build things, build up. So take the pressure off,
Hey,
relax, and we'll all get through it, because we can and we will. And as Vanee mentioned, we've done it before. So
powerful stuff. Thank you so much, Brandon. Yeah, we will get through this. And taking those small steps is so vital and so doable. Thank you. Joe Gatto, bring this home.
I should have went first because that was great, and now I got to follow that. I agree with it's great to see all the teams that have developed here, and I think the most important thing to take away is that there's a time now that you have to just get through it, and it's okay to not be okay. So don't put the pressure on yourself to be like, hey, I have to be Smiles, I have to be this. You need to take a moment to deal with this in your way you can. And I think a very important thing, because we'll lean too far that way, is just always all about balance, right? So you got to find a way to have fun. You have to remember to be human and smile and laugh and find an outlet that will make you do that. Be it any of the shows that entertainers have put out for you guys to be there, be it to have a joke book, be it to have a tea party with your children, be it to go on that walk and take pictures of flowers and take them home for yourself. Find a way to have fun, because you need to balance this all out. It's always about balance in life, and now it's just under the microscope. So, that's a big thing. And I think another thing is the way that we're just all connecting this way. It's important we still have friends, even though we can't see them. So let's go old school and call somebody on the phone and talk.
Whoa.
I know it sounds crazy.
That's a little too far.
Call someone instead of
I've actually done that a lot.
Right.
And, I've done FaceTime calls while I work on a puzzle, because sometimes even just working on a puzzle can feel overwhelming. But if somebody's sitting there with me, even if it's my phone propped up against a coffee mug, having someone to talk to while I work on a puzzle has been so helpful. And the best part, pants are optional.
Yeah. Right, it was great.
Thank you all so much. I want to wrap up with a couple of things about the coalition. We are doing a program called Shields for Healthcare Heroes, where we're enlisting cosplayers to get on your sewing machines or your making machines and make masks and plastic shields for healthcare heroes. Our work is currently in 2 hospitals in New York, a hospital in New Orleans, 2 facilities in Seattle, and 1 in Los Angeles, and growing. We have a designated volunteer, Hi Vianne, working on this. Our Our team, including Raymond Litzter and Alberto Rodriguez, are also working nonstop with me to continue this work to make good things happen. So if you're a cosplayer, there's something on our site, or just email us, info@popculturehero.org, and we'd love to enlist you to do this work and save lives. There's just one other shout out I want to say. Joe, thank you so much for wearing your Be Kind shirt. If you'd like to support the work that the Coalition is doing to get this, to get mental health beautiful.
Oh my God, he's wearing pants.
Okay, here. If you'd like to be a part of getting this mental health work out into school, into homes for children, teens, and families, just please, and if you need this work, we're giving it away free of charge. It will be translated into Spanish, Italian, and German, and distributed globally for free to anyone who needs it. And there will be, again, tools for children, teens, and parents. Log onto our site and support us by making a donation if you would. More than anything, be safe. And, more than anything, be safe.
As your computer falls on you.
Yeah. My internet goes out.
Chase wanted to take a minute to say thank you to you and all the work you do. You never give yourself enough credit. You're an unbelievable human. The world needs more of you, and we'd be in a much better place if we did. And thanks for putting this together, because everybody on this virtual panel is amazing. And I know that people at home definitely appreciate it too. So cheers to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Our team is amazing. We have a world-class team. So grateful to have all of them on board and all of you on board today. Our team is primarily volunteer, including all my work since 2013. And the reason I'm telling you that is I do it because I see it working. Wouldn't spend this kind of time unless I saw the lives being changed. And we couldn't do that without you. And without you all here today, it means so much to so many people. So thank you all, each of you, for lending your time and your hearts and your wisdom today. I'm so proud to have had each of you on board. Join us. Be kind to yourselves and be kind to each other. And we'll see you on the other side of this. We can get through. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Take care.
So
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.